Okay. She flies it.
So we are here today at the old GR building in West Concord to interview this gentleman whose prior interview was truncated. What is your name, young man? Gordon something.
Yes.
Atwood.
It's Alan. It's Alan Gordon Atwood.
Alan, how do you spell the Alan?
A-L-A-N.
Okay. Now last time we got you through MIT in what year?
I graduated there in 1960.
60. That makes you an older
60
gentleman.
or 61, not really sure which year.
What's the ring say? No ring?
Oh, it was 1960.
Okay. What's the matter? You couldn't afford the ring?
Hadn't found the girl.
Yeah. All right. And then where'd you work first?
I worked at Beckman Instruments in Anaheim, California.
Anaheim.
Yes. They had a guy. They had their, the guy that comes out looking for people. What do you call him? Scout.
Yeah.
They go to
Interviewer.
different
Yeah.
colleges, okay, looking for graduates.
Yeah.
Came to.
For just a minute. So you went to work in Anaheim, California for
Yeah, they came out.
Bentley Instruments.
Beckman Instruments. They came out and interviewed me at MIT.
Yeah. What
then
kind of instruments? Veterans, what'd you say?
Well, it was Beckman. B-E-C-K-M-A-N. That was the name.
Oh, Beckman. Sure.
Beckman. Then I worked out there for, it's kind of a long story, but anyway.
Well, shorten it up. Give me the short version.
I went out there in the fall of 1960.
Okay.
Like that.
Yeah.
And I was out there for about a year, not quite a year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, about a year. And it was September of '61. I was going to get married.
Gonna get
My
married.
plan was to get married in Old North Church in Boston.
Right. But you have to find a girl.
September 20th. Yes, but I was successful.
Aha.
Okay, same girl.
Okay.
Same girl.
Okay.
I was supposed to get married on September 23rd. Well, a week before, and she was gonna fly out and we could live in California.
Yeah.
That was the plan.
Yeah. Good plan.
Good plan. A week before I was to get married, I was listening to the radio, and the candidate called up the reserves
Oh, yeah.
because they built the Berlin Wall,
Yeah.
and I was in a reserve unit
Oh,
because I had been in ROTC, so I was in the
Sure,
reserve unit.
sure.
And they called it up a week before I was going to get married.
oh, Jesus.
So, and I was going to get married in Boston. Here I am in California. So I went to my company commander in California. I said, sir,
Tell you what, let's move a little bit. Eddie, you go sit in that chair. Right there. See that chair there?
He's not saying anything. He's not saying anything.
Right there.
Harold, it's everybody else.
All right, a little change of venue here. So you got called up.
Yeah. I got my unit got called up.
Yeah.
I was in a psychological warfare unit.
Aha.
Why was I in that? Because I was in the signal corps, and it was a radio operation, and they need technical people because I'm an engineer.
Sure.
To run the radios.
Sure.
But it was a psychological. They did the programming. That's why I was there.
Wow.
Because I was in the signal corps. In any case, they called it up. I come home from work one day from Beckman, and I listened to the radio, and it said your unit has been called up. 308 Psychological Warfare Unit. I couldn't believe my ears. And my wife was all set to come out to California with all of her stuff and everything else.
But had you actually got married, or you hadn't got married?
No, this was early in September.
Yeah.
And so I went to my company commander and I said, sir, I'm going to get married next week or 2 weeks. And we had to be standing tall October 1st,
Okay.
1961.
Yes, sir.
In
First
California, that was the rule.
First class fighting men. Yes, sir.
I'm going to get married on September 23rd, which is a week before. And I said, could I just get married in Boston and then fly down to North Carolina to Fort Bragg and meet the unit down there, rather than flying all the way back out to California and going down. He said, Lieutenant, such a request will have to come across my desk, and I will disapprove it.
Disapprove it.
Disapprove it.
That's right.
So what do I say? I say, thank you, sir.
Right.
And I then flew back to Boston on, my wife was going to send all of her stuff out.
Yeah.
So I sent her a telegram. I should have called her on the phone because she had already sent it. I missed her by about 1 day.
Oh, Jesus.
12 boxes of everything she owns.
Oh, Christ.
Because she was going to live out there. And so it arrived. We packed it all up. And then she and I flew to Boston on the 24th. I hadn't seen her in 3 months.
This is stretching on a bit, folks, but we'll speed it up.
You can empty it out.
No, I won't. No, it's a good story. Anyway,
so we got married in Boston. I flew out to California, and then I went and then he said, well, because you are now married, I had been married a week.
Yeah.
So now you get 12 cents a mile rather than 6 cents a mile.
I love it. Double.
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 Yeah. So that was my honeymoon coming across the country 2 weeks ago. Well, anyway, that's my long part of the story.
Okay, how many years did you put in?
I put in 10 months.
10 months,
At
right.
that point.
Yep.
At that point, yeah. And I got out in August of 62.
And what'd you do?
Then, we lived on base, okay? And then from there, they said, well, we'll send you any way back where you came from, as long as it's not further from where you came in.
Yeah.
So I said, well, all things considered, I'd like to go to Boston.
Okay.
That's where I went to school. That's my home.
Okay, I understand. Where did you go and who'd you work for?
Okay, my first job was RCA in Burlington, Massachusetts.
Okay, I'm with you.
And I worked
Military Industrial Complex.
there. Yeah, sort of. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Right up the street from Miter,
Yeah,
across the street.
yeah.
And so I worked there for 7 years.
7 years, long time.
At RCA. I worked at RCA.
Yeah.
See that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then I left there in '69, I think it was. And then I worked for a small company called Viatron,
Viatron, sure.
which went belly up because they
Yep.
didn't do things right.
Yep,
I was there only about a year and a half.
yep.
And then in '71, I didn't get laid off, but they shut the company went
Yeah.
belly up and
Yeah.
went out of business.
Yeah.
So I had to find another job. So I
Yeah.
went to MIT, checked it at alumni office, and they suggested this place called General Radio.
General Radio.
General Radio. Oh yeah. I'd heard of that because the instruments are there. So I drove out here. They had sort of other interviews. When I drove into this area on Baker Avenue,
Right here, where we are right
where
now.
we're sitting right this moment, as I drove in past the pond and all the
Yep.
weeping willow trees,
Yep.
I just had one deep feeling, and that was, I'm home.
I'm home.
I'm home. I really felt
Oh, I love it.
yeah. And so when I come in and Ralph Anderson interviewed me,
Yep.
and
Hired you as what?
he hired me as just an engineer.
Systems engineer.
Well, I guess systems engineer. Yeah.
What was going on? 1792, what were we doing?
1792, 1796s.
Okay,
All that
computer-aided test equipment.
Yeah, computer-aided testing.
Yeah.
Well, I was.
Digital PDP-8s.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Oh yeah, all that new good stuff.
That's right.
Oh yeah, teletypewriters to talk to it. Oh yeah.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, no
Tape
knobs,
readers.
No knobs on anything.
And you had to boot it up by yourself, enter the
Yeah.
key,
Oh,
boot,
yeah, oh,
boot.
no.
Yeah, great
And
stuff.
I felt really out of it because when I went to school, all the instruments I used had knobs on.
Knobs,
Okay.
knobs and dials.
Knobs and dials, and I related. Oh, I'm spilling my.
That's all right. I'm sorry. It took you away. Take a
Yeah.
sip. Suck it down. Give it another suck.
Well, at least I didn't spill it on my.
No, not yet. All right, hurrying right along here.
And I felt really uncomfortable because
Yeah.
none of the boards, that go into 1796s, they didn't
Yeah.
have knobs on them.
I'll call you.
The boards didn't have knobs on them. You had to program.
I know it.
And I was lost.
Okay.
So-
But anyway, you succeeded.
I succeeded, and so I was. He hired me in custom products.
Ralph
Ralph
didn't hire you in CPO because that was
Oh, that
SETI.
came later. That came later. That's right.
But I
He
want to
hired me-
get you
He hired me
there.
as an engineer.
All right.
And so I worked for Ralph till about 74 or something like that.
Okay.
I don't remember the exact time.
All right. Now, meanwhile, I had been running CPO.
Okay.
Dick Setti, Dan Abername.
Oh, I remember those names. Yeah.
Okay, but I left to go to California for GR.
Oh,
Dick Setti took over CPO.
okay.
And then he must have got you.
yeah. Well, then I worked. At some point, I forget the reason. some change, and Ralph just said, would you like to work in custom products?
Custom
on
products,
CPO?
yeah.
I guess so. I mean, I really didn't know anything about it. So then I worked for Dixetti.
Right, and then eventually you took over.
Yeah, in 1980, I worked at CPO until 1980.
Yeah.
And,
SETI went west, I think. California.
I thought he was going to move up the chain.
No, he was out there with the semiconductor test operation, I think, somewhere
He
along
was
there.
out there for a while.
Yeah.
I forget the time.
But you took over from him.
From Dixetti, yes.
Yeah.
My thought was...
Abaname had gone to join his buddy there at Analogic.
Analogic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bernie Gordon.
Yes.
That's right. So
Yeah,
Abaname was gone. He was
I had
next.
some contact with Dan, but not
Yeah.
too much.
Yeah.
So I thought that Dixetti was going to move up the organization, and
Yeah.
I would take over CPO and work for Dick.
Yeah.
But John Lyons
That's right.
came on the scene, and for whatever reason, I wound up working for John Lyons because
Oh.
Dixetti left
Okay.
the scene.
Okay.
I was scared to death. He scared
If you're listening, John, don't worry about
he
it.
scared the hell out of me.
Yeah, yeah.
I
You
come
weren't
to-
the only. You weren't the only
I
one.
come to where I put my coffee down.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
come to work-
Walt Hines had gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd come to work in the mornings, and John would have meetings every morning, and I always checked the light in his office from the park as I walk in from the parking lot, hoping that he wasn't in today. I just didn't want to talk to him.
All right. When did you leave GR? You left from that
I left
position.
GR that was, by the way, it was 1985 when I took over CPO.
Yeah.
I left GR in 1990. I
Okay.
retired in September of 1990. So this is now what?
So
Today
was that an early retirement or a
it was early.
early
I was
retirement?
Only 55 at
That's
I was
right.
56. I was
But they were trying to cut back, and they had some good offers because I picked one up.
Yeah. Well, I had wanted to retire early, but I was always too young.
Yeah.
I didn't have enough time.
Yeah.
And then Bob Anderson came on the scene.
Yeah.
And I remember going down to Bob's office saying, are you going to have any more early retirement plans? He said, no, it costs
Except for you.
costs too much. I said,
Yeah.
shoot. Well, next year he had one.
Yeah.
And I checked all my numbers and everything. I was eligible. And
Attaboys.
and I've never regretted it.
Attaboy. Never looked back. But what did you do then?
Well, then they called me to work on somebody in manufacturing. They were building cables or something. And so I got a phone call from Genrad saying, would you want to come back and work as a supervisor?
So you became a consultant kind of.
A consultant. Well, not only that, but then do you want to come back and be a supervisor?
I think they
on
call
the
that.
manufacturing floor.
I think they call that double dipping. But anyway, so
we won't
did
talk
you?
about that.
That's right. So you did?
So I did. I got $24 an hour,
Oh,
and I was working on the manufacturing floor,
Great.
which I've never really done before.
for how long?
Several months. It wasn't a year,
Okay.
and it was really. It was a very exciting experience.
Sure.
Because I'm working with hourly people, which I'd never done before.
Sure. Sure.
And it was a graveyard shift. I worked from midnight to 8 in the
Oh,
morning.
Jesus, tough work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember I was so busy that I used to have 2 or 3 cups of coffee a day. I was so busy, I never, even in the middle of the night, I had no coffee. I just worked right along.
Wow.
And I just loved those people.
So then what happened?
Well, then
That ended.
I truly became retired. Just
And
like
you-
I am now. I'm totally unemployable.
Not unemployable,
yeah.
unemployed.
I'm unemployable. I
No,
don't
you're
know.
eminently employable, but not for much money.
That was not the money. Nobody would hire me. The technology has gone so far past me.
Yeah, but you
I'm
got the
incompetent.
fundamentals,
I'm
Gordon.
incompetent.
Fundamentals.
I am studied incompetence.
All right. Now, some advice. Your years at GR were good ones.
Yes, they were. Yeah.
What advice do you give the rest of us about your years at GR? What parting thoughts?
Well, my only thoughts, I spent a lot of time with the Scouts, and the same thing I tell the Boy Scouts. It says, my years don't make me old. Only I can make me old. And I know when I'm doing that, because if I think of something I want to do and I say, oh, I don't feel like doing that, I make myself do that.
What a guy.
Because that's a clue that I'm allowing myself to think as an old person. And I make it a point, I try not to.
I'm with you, Gordon. All right, we've been talking to our friend Gordon Atwood about his years at GR and beyond and before, and also his words of advice. Bye-bye, Gordon.
Bye-bye.